everyone, so today we are filming our very first regular episode of Dolly Tales, because last time we did the introduction. So if you don't know, this is our series where we share like different doll memories and experiences in kind of a fun and laid back way. Today we're going to be talking about Shelly's Salon, which is actually kind of a joke that the family I work for, I cut their hair sometimes in addition to doing farm chores, and there's always this joke when it's time for their haircuts that it's Shelly's Salon. So that's where
as opposed to Shelly's chicken keeping.
Yeah, Shelly's poop duty. Basically we're going to be talking about all of the different memories we have of like things we used to do to clean our dolls when we were younger, and like of course haircuts, that's a big one, the disastrous haircuts, and also like when we first got back into collecting, some of the different things we tried out and all of that jazz.
So this video is by no means a licensed tutorial on how you should care of your dolls. A lot of what we're going to be sharing here is what you shouldn't do. If you want to see what we do now, there's the tips and tutorials and transformations albums.
Playlist.
And the respective albums on Flickr that will give you much better insight on modern day proper dolly care. This is like Stone Age dolly care that we'll go back to.
Redneck doll care.
So since I'm older, I'll open with how I used to take care of my dolls.
Oh gosh.
I didn't. Their hair just, it went out in a big fro. I mean, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I don't really comb my own hair that much, especially not on weekends. Their hair would just get those big blonde, neckline, 90s fros.
And you would yell at me when I'd go to comb your doll's hair.
Yeah, whereas her doll's all balded.
Yeah, we had two very, like, I'm, like, very obsessive compulsive, like.
She's a meticulous groomer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not diagnosed, but I definitely think I have some form of OCD. It's, like, ritualistic, and it's not just cleaning, it's, like, it's everything. Has to be, like, I won't let her write in the address book. I mean, I'm very, like.
She erases what I write on the whiteboard.
Oh,
she will erase it and rewrite it.
I'm like extremely particular in all facets of my life, and dolls was where it started with me. I remember sitting there and brushing. I balded my Addie doll. I balded all of my favorite Barbies, and then.
I mean, Christina was already sort of bald when you got her.
Yes, and then especially like when I would be stressed out, like with my mom getting diagnosed with cancer, I would sit there and like scrub my bitty baby doll and like hallucinate dirt. I would just scrub her. I would use,
and you'd also hallucinate blue spots. You were like,
yes, I did, and I would take Brillo pads, and I would use them to clean Jasmine's legs because I was convinced they were dirty. Her legs are actually like mildly faded from that, and I would use those on my horse, Ocean, my unicorn.
Yep.
I would do that. I was like obsessed with things being clean. And Colleen didn't clean anything when we were little kids. Like,
surprise, surprise.
I remember her Kelly dolls would have like, they'd be these little tiny things with all that hair and be like, but the dolls that she had growing up actually have hair now and look better.
A lot of her childhood dolls have reroots.
And I used to cut their hair too, so.
So would you like to proceed to haircuts next?
Yes, haircuts. So when I was like 9, I got really into doll transformation. I remember after
cutting hair as a way to revitalize.
Yes. I remember after our like boycott of Barbie dolls, because we boycotted Barbie. There'll be a whole other video on that.
On the Barbie boycott.
Just our boycotts in general. We were ridiculous. We were really ridiculous with boycotts. We thought it was trendy. I don't know. So, because we also boycotted like the Disney store and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's all kinds of boycotts.
Forgot about the Disney store boycott.
So I remember after that, we kind of wanted to like freshen up our Barbie dolls. And I remember the first dolls that I made over were our corduroy cool Barbie named Lizzie and foam and color Barbie named Foam. I remember bringing them into the kitchen and for the first time using shampoo and conditioner on dolls. I used to like to use my mom's wig shampoos and stuff on them when I wasn't supposed to, but those were my favorites. They smelled like tea tree. And I remember I would sit there, and actually, before I washed hair, I forgot to mention this, my way of like cleaning dolls was, there used to be this thing called No More Bedhead Spray by Johnson & Johnson's, and Mom bought that for us. But I remember I would take her dolls that were all like matted, like her Water Jewel Magic Jasmine, and I would soak them in that like No More Bedhead sprays. And I remember sitting there, and I think I used a combination of people brushes and Barbie combs and stuff, and I would like detangle
Yeah, you
their
had
hair.
a system. You started with one and then you moved to
Yeah, I had like a whole ritual, and I thought it was like a miracle cure, but then I got into like shampooing and conditioning, and I realized that's where it was all at. And from there, I took all of our first Barbie dolls, who were all like secondhand, and I would like wash their hair, and then what I like to do is I would blow dry it. Don't blow dry your doll's hair, that is the worst thing you can do ever. I would blow dry it, and I actually got a lot of their hair to be like pin straight that way, and then I would like trim it, and I had no cutting qualifications at this time. And I remember when we took the dolls out as adults and started looking at them, they had like wicked uneven haircuts. Like Esmeralda had like, remember how she had that like huge long?
Oh yeah.
And I cut off Esmeralda's bangs, and oh, it was awful. Like that was my way of fixing them up, was like hack their hair, blow dry it, burn it. And if you look at like, if you were to look at a lot of the dolls we played with as kids, like we would do weekly bathing sessions with them when I was like 11, 12. Like I was very into like, you know, the dolls we play with all the time, like Robin and Jasmine and Leroy and Katie, like they need to be washed every week. Like the whole shebang. Bodies, hair.
I want to know with Kid Core Katie, because this
What
was
we were
back.
hoping to achieve.
I know. Well, this was back before she was rerooted, and let me tell you, that blonde nylon, it held on to everything.
That's what I used to do for the Kid Core dolls too. I would snip, 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 snip. And then their
That
hair.
Kid Core Jody doll that I used to play with all the time, oh my god, her hair was like sponge from all that
Oh, I know.
washing.
It would turn gray.
Yeah.
And my first Kid Core Kelsey doll, who came in like a leopard print jacket, I actually still have her outfit. It's pictured on my Flickr. I remember giving her the Cleopatra haircut, which was basically my word for a bob that I jacked up. It would be like short hair and then
Oh yeah.
I called it the Cleopatra.
No, Pearl Beach Christie didn't end up with the Cleopatra. She just ended up with a non-flattering
Oh.
short haircut.
So what happened to Pearl Beach Christie? We were playing this game where they were going to go to the beach, and the Pearl Beach dolls have pretty long hair, and I wanted her to have a summer haircut. Okay, Barbie's hair doesn't grow back. That was the first warning sign not to do it. I remember first I cut her hair to here, and I'm like, no, that's not dramatic. Then I cut it to here. I also did that to my Rio de Janeiro Teresa, whose name is Hallie, because I saw Mandy Moore on a commercial and I loved her like choppy short layered haircut. So I ripped her bangs out, plucked them out. I want to say I did that when I got her with my teeth in the car.
Oh yeah, I remember you doing your teeth.
That was disgusting. And then when I got home, I played with her for a while with her like regular hair, just no bangs. And then I saw that commercial and I decided to cut her hair into short layers. So she still has that short haircut because I managed, using my expensive thinning tool that came from my cosmetology kit, I managed to like blend it into
I don't think your cosmetology teacher ever pictured you would go home with that and play with it on Barbie.
Yeah, I like-
Oh, that reminds me of another cosmetology related story with Allison.
We need to talk about Allison. Allison
Allison is
our
the biggest.
full-time Barbie. She was Colleen's doll. We got her from the Salvation Army from our grandparents. She's one of our first Barbies. She's famous. Basically, when we got Allison, she already had cut hair, and it used to stand up straight, and she had like crimps in her hair. She was one of the variants that had like crimps. It would stand up straight, and I didn't know about the boil wash. I didn't know about that stuff. I could have gotten it to lay flat if I had known that. I mean, and I was able to get Ballerina, you know, Becky, the little Kelly doll.
Yes.
The
Oh,
one
her
with the ballet
girl was
outfit.
great.
Her hair used to be in like one of those curly buns, and I managed to get that to lay flat just from like a blow drying it a lot. But for some reason, I didn't try that with Allison. I don't know.
Again, do not blow dry.
I thought I'd give her the stylish pixie. We all know where that's going.
Stylish pixie.
And basically, I just kept cutting it shorter and shorter, and basically by the end of it, she looked like a Q-tip.
For the record, unless Barbie is sold with the stylish pixie, I do not recommend a stylish pixie.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't lay right.
See, even if you know how to cut hair, the way dolls are
Which
rooted
sometimes she didn't.
will predict how it looks. Because dolls aren't rooted typically to have like short hair that falls. Like you have to know how they're rooted and understand how they're rooted and how the hair comes out of their head to do it right. Just don't try the pixie. It was bad. It was awful. I felt horrible. And so I always try to make it up to her. Like I remember when I got my Grand Hotel for my 12th birthday, I let her be the first doll that got to use it. Like Allison got like basically bald privileges. Because I felt so guilty for what I had done. Because I made all the other dolls look nice. Like Kula turned out great. Like when I first got back into dolls, in like 2011. One of my things was I was fascinated with the idea of like, can you replace doll hair? And I still had my like cosmetology kit, and when you're in cosmetology school, they give you like little wefts of human hair that you're supposed to use to like test color on, to learn like, you know, how things lift and how things deposit and all of that jazz. And I still had a bunch of unused ones. So I took some of my blonde, and they came in like little long wefts, and they were about that long, and I like super glued it all around her head into like a spiral. Kid, we had this knockoff doll. Her name is Karen. She was like a fakey camping set doll, and she balded. And my mom named her Chemo Karen because she lost all her hair, and my mom was going through chemotherapy at the time, and she had gone bald, and it was kind of this joke with her mom. Like, I remember the first time I saw her like bald, we just like looked at each other, both panicked, and then laughed. And like Chemo Karen kind of became the representation of this. And it wasn't like meant to be like mean or anything. It was a joke. My mom, who was the one with cancer, came up with it. So I used to save hair when I brushed my dolls. I would save the wads of hair
to try to glue.
Because I thought in my 9-year-old, 10-year-old head, I can save this and like make a wig. It was disgusting. I actually had a bag of all different colors. That wasn't clean, by the way. It was dirty hair. Like, oh, doll hair on the carpet. Oh,
and some of that doll hair was mixed with lint.
Lint, cat hair, you name it, guinea pig hair. When I had this like perfect wefts of doll like hair that I could use on Allison, it thrilled me. So I super glued it all around her head, and I like cut it. It looked awful.
Now I just want to point out that if she had not done this, Allison had, before this was done, that like really short, like what you want right before a reroot.
She was prepped for a reroot, basically.
Exactly. She was exactly what you want for a reroot. It would have taken us no time at all to get Allison rerooted. Think about how hard when we learned that there was a real way to reroot and actually put hair in Allison's
super
holes.
glue on her head.
Right. Imagine how much work she had to go through to get that off.
And yeah, I had like soak it in hot water. I had to use like little razor blades to kind of get it to come up. Fortunately, her head didn't take too much of a beating. She did have like a chunk or two of her scalp actually coming out, like not where it was like a hole, but where a little bit of it came off. I got it off, and then the first thing I tried to reroot her with, I tried rerooting her 3 times. The first thing was I tried to use donor hair. I had this dentist Barbie that was like hideous, and she already had a haircut, and her thumbs were gone, and I really didn't like this dentist Barbie. She wasn't the one I had growing up. So I cut off her hair and I tried to reroot it. And it didn't work out. It was Connect-On. It was a horrible mess. There wasn't enough. You usually can't like take hair off of one doll and like have enough to do a whole other doll. It's just the way it works. And also like the way I reroot, you need like double the length. It didn't work. I did a few hair plugs and realized it didn't work. So then I went to a craft store and I got like the craft hair. Remember that?
Oh!
It was like curly, like the cheapest, lowest quality nylon hair. It was awful. It didn't oil wash well. It was really bad. It was terrible. Then I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I did some more research, and I realized that there was like actually websites you could buy doll hair from. So I talked to my dad, and he said I could do it. I got like really long blondicious is the color, and it's like super long, and it has like the most long ridiculous hair. Well, at the time my dad was in the hospital, and I thought it would be a good idea, like, oh, I'll reroot. But when I'm stressed out, I have like no patience for anything. I'm like angry, and I tried to reroot her, and it wasn't working, and I ended up messing up an entire skin of hair, like the whole thing. Like I don't know what happened.
Skin or scheme?
I don't know how you pronounce it. It got all knotted. So if you guys have done reroots and done them bad and messed them up, believe me, I am the queen of failed like hair transplants and failed reroots. I also jacked up my Odette doll, who was the only custom doll I have.
And Margie, my Hawaiian fun skipper.
Yeah.
She did the first reroot with this like pair from a Rapunzel, like a tangled Rapunzel wig. It wasn't nearly as bad as that stuff we bought at the craft store for Allison, but it's not really that nice.
Hair, but
and yeah, it is. It's a lot like American Girl hair. Now you say that. Yeah, it's a very coarse nylon, very much like this Connect-On. So it's either a very coarse Connect-On like this, or it's a coarse nylon. We put it in Margie, and it didn't look right on Margie, so she ended up rerooting her. But 2 of my Kid Corcades, is it just the 2 of them that have that?
Yeah, no, 3. It was bad, and also I used this yellow nylon hair from Restore Doll. I forget the name of it now. It was awful, and I didn't know how to work with nylon hair at the time. And the thing about like certain types of hair is like when you knot them, it really bulks out on the inside of the head, and I didn't know how to like properly section off hair. Like, I didn't know what size plugs to use. I was just making this up as I went along, and basically...
That's why if you look at Allison and you look at the more recent reroute client, which is Day to Night Barbie, you see a huge
Right, but
difference.
see, Allison's head went on. I could barely get Margie's head on because the knots were so filled up so much of her head, and same with Odette, and they both had to get rerouted again. Like, it was awful, so really don't feel bad. Like, I awful at reroutes. Like, and I like would rip the heads with the holes when I pull out hair because I'm like, you know, manly strong, and I would like and it would like make holes in the heads. That's bad. It was my own fault for like cutting these dolls' hair. I mean, Margie was bald.
Yeah, Margie.
And Odette was a custom project thing, which I don't personally customize anymore, but that was something I experimented with in my early days of collecting, and it was a disaster. She's my only custom doll. My dad really loved her, that's why I still have her.
Oh, speaking of Dad and Allison, when Shelly finally got Allison rerouted, Dad looks at Allison and says, she's not just in the hair club, she's the president. With you a chair.
Poor Allison was like the test subject for everything. I remember Dad used to want to know how my dolls were put together. And one day he takes this little screwdriver and he takes Allison, who was, you know, in the process of having her hair done. I don't know which time. He like shoves it in the slot in her arm because she has like the bent karate arms that like do this.
We call them karate.
He like shoved the screwdriver and he's like, how does this work? And I'm like, Dad, back off. Ruin Allison. So she has like this little wound. But I cut everything's hair. I remember I cut my son Kyra's hair when I was a little kid. Copeland's hair, Esmeralda's hair. I mean, you name it, I cut their hair. I was like obsessed with haircuts, and I didn't learn. My Travel in Style Barbie, my first Heidi. Again, I was watching TV and I saw this stylish short haircut, and I go and I grab my favorite Barbie, and I decided to give her a haircut. And it looked horrible, and her ponytail was like this really short, spiky looking thing, and it looked awful, and I cried about it. It was my own fault. So we went looking for her everywhere. She wasn't in any stores anymore.
Because she was already like an older doll when we bought her.
Yeah, and I had to order her online, and I think I got one from the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Because she has like color variations and stuff. So we had to pay like a ton for shipping and stuff.
And then we, right after we got Heidi out of the mail, Dad had to stop at like the bank before we went out for like, you know, our Friday and Saturday rendezvous. And we're at the bank, Chad's waiting in line at the like thing, and he like,
the ATM?
The ATM, and he playfully throws Heidi out the window.
Yeah, he used to like to take my dolls, and he'd like make them drive. I remember he'd have like my brats. Yeah, he'd be like this, and he'd be like really. So he did this, and then he's like making her talk, and I'm like, I'm gonna jump out of the window. Like I'm sitting there like, you better not. You make so my brand new doll tosses her out the window and drives forward, and I'm like, Dad. And then he's laughing, and he like throws the car in reverse, and he backs out, and I'm like hoping he doesn't run over Heidi.
Heidi's fine, Heidi's fine.
Heidi's still here. I did not cut her hair. Heidi still has a beautiful luscious hair, although it's probably a little thin. She's missing part of her eyebrow. That's another story. I used to be real happy with using like nail polish remover when I first got into restoring dolls as an adult, because it was like rubbing alcohol. It would really like take off like set-in stains. But I didn't realize, even though I had only used it like up here to get rid of a mark, I went to rinse it off, and I didn't realize how fragile Barbie's face paint is, especially like 2000s Barbies, and just from the water mixing with it, it ran across her eyebrow and it took off like half her eyebrow.
Poor Heidi.
So I had to like paint a little thin streak there. Actually, considering that I'm horrible at painting dolls, it looks okay. It's usually I don't even bother because it just looks horrible when I do it.
Heidi.
Yeah. But Heidi is okay. Heidi survived a traumatic event. I still remember like when Heidi came in the mail too. It was Saturday morning and I was taking a shower, and I remember like, I was like, screw this shower. Play with my doll. I always felt bad like cutting dolls' hair. So now when I see dolls with haircuts, it kind of just reminds me of my own childhood. Actually, one of the lots we got this past year on the Live Clothing lot, they actually was scissors and like doll hair in the lot. And I'm sitting there looking like, oh my god, this is what my dolls looked like. I try to do my public service and save as many dolls as I can. I feel better about myself knowing that I've rebooted the dolls that I jacked up as a kid, and you know, I'm better at rebooting. I wouldn't say I'm a master at it, but I've got.
Oh, Day to Night Barbie disagrees. She's all like really full of herself now.
It's like boil washing. you know, it all takes practice. Like, I remember when we started boil washing, you remember we'd let them dry before we dumped them. We'd like wash them, and then we'd have to let them dry. We thought they needed to be dry.
We thought they needed to dry. I forgot all about that. I remember too when we first got back into dolls and we were deciding to clean all our childhood dolls, we would have heaps of them that we thought needed to be cleaned, which they did need to be cleaned, all over the kitchen, like piled up onto the chairs on the island. And you know, poor Dad, like at first he thought it was kind of weird, like why are you bringing up all those Barbies, like what's with all these Barbies? And then after a while Dad just accepts it as a part of life, there's Barbie everywhere again, just like when we were teenagers.
And then we had like the cold water bowl. We used to do a cold water bowl with like ice cubes.
Oh yeah, instead of just rinsing them in the sink.
And the ice cubes would always melt. And
yeah, from that hot air.
Remember we used to put them out on the deck to let them dry?
Yeah,
in
that was bad because even if no one fell off, which I'm pretty sure at some point I didn't have to go down to get.
One of my Megan dolls did. One of my Megan dolls was sitting like on the railing, and then a gust of wind took her off, and with the time in the backyard was a jungle.
Yeah, I remember going into the jungle and digging dolls out of the leaves.
And like, you know, we have like a lot of trees in our yard, and like, you know, pollen and
yeah,
leaves
so even when they didn't fall off the deck, they would just get dirty.
And you know,
so like,
you don't want to put them outside to dry.
We usually put them on my bed.
The sun will damage them with the UV rays. You don't want to blow dry them either. Just put them in front of a fan.
Boil wash bowl was right there. Sam's messy hair was right there, and I'm like, American Girl, boil wash, why not? I'm like, Shelly, can I just put Sam's hair in the bowl? And she's like, well, I don't care.
Samantha always had the worst hair.
So I put Sam's hair in, and we were both pretty pleased with the results. So ever since then, and then we realized on my childhood Molly doll that those little short hairs at the back of the wig they have for like the braids, we realized that the flat iron can't really reach those that well because they're so close to the scalp. But the boil wash really took care of it.
And I even worked on Addie's hair.
Yeah.
I didn't take out the texture. I get asked that a lot.
Our first flat iron ever was Kia because we had Molly,
I was gonna say
Kia, and Josephina. Kia and Josephina have that like stretchy black nylon connect line that's harder to work with.
I was watching a YouTube video and someone had a Josephina doll that had really frizzy hair, and Josephina was always my favorite American Girl doll. She meant the most to me, and her hair was really frizzy because back at the time, before they had like the newer wigs, they would get really, really frizzy, and I didn't want to cut her hair because I knew that was bad. I learned my experience, and I knew not to cut American Girl hair. So I researched it, and I wanted to try it, and I didn't know you could do it on Barbie dolls because I found this via American Girl. It's like stain removal treatment.
It's like we didn't originally start with the boil wash with the AGs.
Right, so but you can really do most things the same on them. So
they're just dolls.
I remember we had Kia, or Kaya, I call her Kia. Kia, we had Josephina and Molly, and we decided to start with Kia because she meant the least to us sentimentally, and I love
because Josephina's her favorite and Molly's mine.
Right. I actually used to have makeover pictures on my old computer, but you couldn't even turn that on after a certain point. But
yeah, well, we had a lot of your earlier doll projects on my laptop,
pictures, yeah.
But that died about 3 years ago.
I don't remember the first doll I actually boil washed. I think, I remember it was my child.
I thought it was totally your Barbie.
But no, it wasn't. She gave me the idea, but it wasn't her.
Oh.
I remember that I tried the curly perm first, and I tried it on, I think, Fashion Secrets Meg. I don't remember who I did first to straighten it. I think I was wary of straightening the hair.
Your childhood Jen girls were the first dolls that I saw the Miracle to Boil Wash working on. I remember Tori and Anna, because remember how at some point you had them up in your room? Yep. I remember seeing them going into the boil wash water and their hair going from yucky to sleek, and I was really blown away.
Yeah.
I became a believer. The boil wash became my religion after that day with the Jen girls.
So that's a bit of our doll makeover experience.
Doll makeover from the dark ages. You know, maybe that's what we should call this instead of Shelly Salon.
But I think we've all been there, and I think if you're like starting to make over dolls, just be patient. You're gonna mess up some dolls, maybe you'll ruin a few dolls. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game, and you know, I still am learning. Things still shock me. Until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.